Life has a strange way of placing us in situations we never imagined facing. Some stories are easy to tell, but others sit quietly in our hearts because they're complicated, emotional, and difficult to explain. This is one of those stories. Have you ever felt like you were standing on the edge between what feels right and what you know is wrong, not because of desire, but because life slowly pushed you there? That's exactly how I felt during a time that changed everything for me. It was as if fate was playing a cruel joke, and I was the one caught in the middle. It all began on a completely ordinary Saturday afternoon. I had no big plans, just one of those lazy weekends where you clean a little, relax a little, and let time pass quietly. The dryer was humming softly in the background as I went through my closet, pulling out clothes I no longer wore to donate. That's when I found it. An old miniskirt tucked away in the back. I hadn't worn something like that in years. I thought that phase of my life was long gone, the carefree days when confidence came naturally and life felt lighter. Holding it brought back memories of youth, laughter, and freedom. On a sudden impulse, I decided to try it on. I didn't expect much. But when I looked in the mirror, I couldn't help laughing softly. It fit tighter than I remembered, hugging my body in ways that showed both flaws and curves. It wasn't something I planned to wear out, just a nostalgic moment. That's when I heard a knock at the door. My hair was messy. I wasn't dressed for visitors. And I definitely wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there stood my nephew Jason. He wasn't a kid anymore. At 22, he had grown into a confident young man, tall, broad-shouldered, and carrying himself with ease. The kind of person who naturally grabbed attention without trying. He held a small toolbox and smiled casually. "Auntie, you called about the leaking faucet." I froze for a moment, suddenly remembering I had asked him to help fix the sink in the guest bathroom. Feeling a little embarrassed about my outfit, I laughed it off and stepped aside. "Yes, come in. The bathroom's down the hall." As he walked past me, I noticed something, a brief hesitation, a glance that lingered just a second too long before he looked away. I told myself I was imagining things. But the atmosphere felt different. While Jason worked, I went back to the closet, yet I couldn't shake the strange tension in the air. You know that feeling when someone's eyes seem to follow you even when they try not to? At first, I brushed it off. He was family. I was clearly overthinking. Then he suddenly called out. "Auntie, could you come here for a second? I need help." I walked into the bathroom. Jason was crouched near the sink, sleeves rolled up, muscles visible as he held a wrench. "I think the pipe stuck," he said. "Can you hold the faucet while I loosen it?" The bathroom was small, and soon we were standing incredibly close, almost shoulder to shoulder. I tried to focus on helping, but I could feel the warmth of his arm brushing against mine. When I glanced at his face, I realized something unsettling. He wasn't only watching the pipe. His eyes kept drifting toward me. Not obvious, just enough that I noticed. "Everything okay?" I asked softly, trying to break the silence. He paused, then smiled like usual. "Yeah, all good." A few moments later, he finished fixing the sink and stood up. "There. It should be fine now." "Thank you," I said quickly. He leaned against the counter and studied me. "You know," he said slowly, "I don't think I've ever seen you wear something like that before." My cheeks burned. "Oh, this? I just found it while cleaning." He looked at me for a long moment before smiling again, but this time it felt different. "It suits you," he said gently. I didn't know what to say. Feeling uncomfortable, I turned to leave, but he followed me into the hallway. "Auntie," he said quietly. "Yes? Do you ever feel like some things happen for a reason?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" He opened his mouth, then shook his head and laughed nervously. "Never mind." But I couldn't forget the look in his eyes. That night, I tried to distract myself with TV, telling myself I was imagining everything. Jason was family. Nothing more. Then my phone buzzed. It was Jason. "Hey Auntie, can I ask you something?" My heart skipped. After hesitating, I replied, "Sure. I've been thinking about today, about you." I stared at the screen. Trying to keep things normal, I wrote, "I was just trying on old clothes." He replied almost immediately. "You looked really beautiful." "I mean it." My pulse raced. Was this innocent? Or something else? After a long pause, I wrote, "Thank you, Jason." Then another message appeared. "I felt something today." My chest tightened. This was crossing a line. Before I could respond, another message popped up. "Sorry, I shouldn't have said that." I felt relieved but uneasy. The next morning, there was another knock at the door. Jason stood there, serious, no carefree smile. "I was nearby," he said. Which wasn't true. He sat down, leaning forward nervously. "About last night. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." "It's okay," I said quickly. "Let's forget it." But he shook his head. "I can't. I meant what I said." My heart sank. "Jason, this isn't appropriate. You're my nephew." "I know it's wrong," he said quietly. "I tried to stop feeling this way, but I can't." I stood up. "You need to leave. We both need space." Before leaving, he whispered, "This isn't over." Later that evening, I found a letter slipped under my door. He wrote about his feelings, saying he'd back away if I wanted, but needed me to know the truth. I didn't reply. But the messages kept coming. Then one day at work, I saw him standing outside my office. He needed answers. I finally told him clearly. "Your family. That's all it can ever be." He nodded, broken, and walked away. I thought it was over. That night, I got a call. Jason had been in an accident. I rushed to the hospital. Thankfully, he was okay, just bruised and shaken. But there, lying in that hospital bed, he confessed everything again, how afraid he was of losing me, how deep his feelings felt. I listened in silence, heart aching. Later that night, I returned home to find a package. Inside was a photo album, filled with family pictures of us over the years, each one with small notes about moments he admired, times I supported him, memories that meant everything to him. It was touching, and heartbreaking. The next day, I asked him to come over. We talked for hours. I gently explained that what he felt was admiration, comfort, and emotional closeness, not romantic love. That boundaries mattered. That family mattered. Slowly, he understood. He promised to work through his feelings and give space. Over time, things healed. Our relationship returned to what it should have always been: family, support, and respect. It wasn't easy, but we both grew from it. I learned the power of setting boundaries. And Jason learned to understand his emotions. Some situations test your heart in ways you never expect, but choosing what's right, even when it's hard, always leads to healing.